The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was alive with nervous energy. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of species moved through the vast chamber, their forms strange and varied. Some covered in shimmering scales, others wrapped in thick fur, feathers, or something entirely unrecognizable. The hall was enormous, with floating platforms and glowing light panels stretching far above the heads of those seated. Today, however, the usual calm order of the council was broken. An emergency session had been called, and everyone wanted to know why. At the center podium stood Ambassador Ryler of the Lyran Federation. His skin was a deep, metallic blue, usually reflecting confidence and calm, but today it looked pale, almost as if the life had been drained from him. The Lyrans were known across the galaxy as explorers and diplomats, always seeking peace and knowledge. Yet, there was an urgency in Ryler's movements that set even the toughest delegates on edge. "Fellow beings of the Council," Ryler began, his voice clear and strong, though his hands trembled slightly. "I bring grave news. News that will change how we view the galaxy forever." The delegates leaned forward, curiosity and caution mixing in equal measure. Among them, General Karath, a towering reptilian warrior of the Draconis Empire, adjusted his armor and narrowed his yellow eyes. He was known for his cold logic and his appetite for conquest. "Another new species?" he said, his deep, rumbling voice echoing through the hall. "Are they worthy of our attention, or just another small, primitive race to overlook?" Ryler's eyes met Karath's, and he shook his head. "No, they are not primitive. They are unlike anything we have ever encountered." A murmur ran through the assembly. New species were always exciting, sometimes useful, sometimes dangerous, but this warning carried a weight that silenced even the most talkative delegates. Ryler activated the holographic display above the podium. A vivid image of a blue and green planet appeared, slowly rotating in space. Oceans shimmered under the light of a yellow sun, continents teeming with life. "This is Earth," Ryler explained. "Home to a species that calls themselves humans." The delegates exchanged surprised glances. Humans? They had heard rumors of life on the galaxy's outer rim, but nothing had prepared them for this. "They are young," Ryler continued, his voice steadying. "Their technology is developing, and their society is small compared to the empires we know. At first glance, they may appear weak. Their spacecraft are basic, their weapons rudimentary. Their world is small, their colonies even smaller. But do not let appearances fool you." Karath leaned back in his seat, a low, dismissive chuckle rumbling in his throat. "So, a few billion primitive beings. They cannot possibly threaten the mighty Draconis Empire. We have crushed planets, conquered entire star systems. What makes these humans any different?" Ryler's jaw tightened. "It is not their size, General, nor their numbers. It is their mind, their history, their capacity for war, and their understanding of it." He changed the display again. Now, scenes of Earth's past appeared, ancient armies clashing with bronze weapons, medieval knights in armor charging across open fields, modern soldiers moving through trenches with rifles and explosives. The timeline flickered rapidly, showing the evolution of human warfare, ending with flashes of nuclear detonations, vast cities reduced to ash in seconds. "They have been at war for thousands of years," Ryler said quietly. "Every generation, every century, every civilization has fought for survival. But humans, they do not give up. They do not surrender. They learn. They adapt. They innovate. Every battle becomes a lesson. Every defeat becomes a strategy. They perfect the art of war itself." A few of the younger delegates whispered to each other, but Karath remained skeptical. "Impressive, but history does not fight wars. Weapons do. Technology does. Numbers do. What makes them truly dangerous?" Ryler's voice dropped, almost a whisper, yet it carried through the hall. "Their ability to think, to calculate, to predict, to control chaos and use it against their enemies. While other species may win through sheer strength or luck, humans study war as an art and a science. They analyze every move, simulate every possible outcome, and plan for every eventuality. And yet, they know restraint. They do not destroy without reason. They choose carefully when and where to strike. Even Karatha's massive claws tapped thoughtfully against the arm of his chair. Something about Ryler's words made him pause, a rare reaction for the legendary warrior. Ryler took a deep breath and activated the final set of images. These were scenes of human diplomacy, meetings between leaders, treaties signed, disputes resolved without bloodshed. And when we asked them what would happen if anyone attacked their world, they smiled. They said that any aggressor would be hunted across the stars, their empire dismantled piece by piece, until nothing remained but ashes and regret. A hush fell over the hall. The delegates stared, some wide-eyed, others rigid with fear. The gravity of the Lyran ambassador's warning sank in. Humans were small, yes, but they were calculated, clever, and ruthless when needed. They were nothing like the primitive species Karath had expected. 3 days after our warning, Ryler concluded, "The Draconis Empire will meet to discuss their next move. I fear that the galaxy does not yet understand what they are about to face. Underestimating humans is a mistake no empire can afford to make." The council chamber remained silent long after Ryler stepped down. Delegates whispered to each other, some in disbelief, some in fear. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's powers began to wonder. What if a young species at the edge of the stars could teach the greatest empires a lesson they would never forget? Outside, the stars twinkled, serene and indifferent. But somewhere on Earth, humans continued their lives, unaware that beings from across the galaxy were already speaking their name with caution and fear. The Galactic Council remained tense after Ambassador Ryler's warning. Even hours later, the delegates whispered quietly among themselves, exchanging uncertain glances. Many had never seen such fear in a Lyran before. Ryler's words about humans had planted a seed of unease that no one could ignore. In a quieter chamber nearby, General Karath of the Draconis Empire paced back and forth. His massive claws clicked against the polished metal floor as he muttered to himself. A primitive species. Yet they can threaten an empire? Impossible. His voice was low, but the weight behind it drew the attention of Admiral Zyra, his second in command. "Sir," Zyra said carefully, "I have reviewed the Lyran's data. Their intelligence is usually accurate. I cannot dismiss their warning lightly." Karath stopped and looked at her. His yellow eyes gleamed with curiosity, but also with disbelief. "Accurate, yes. But humans? How can a species so small, so young, pose any real danger?" Meanwhile, Ambassador Ryler prepared for a second briefing at the council. This time he focused not on appearances, but on what made humans extraordinary. Their history, their resilience, and their approach to conflict. The delegates gathered again, curiosity piqued. Even Karath had come, under the pretense of observation, though his mind was racing. Ryler began, "You have seen Earth, their world, and glimpsed their cities. Now, I will show you why humans are different from every species we have ever encountered." The holographic display flickered to life. Scenes of human history filled the air above the podium. Ancient humans in bronze armor clashed on open plains, their shouts echoing across the simulation. Spears, swords, and shields glinted in the sunlight. The delegates watched quietly, some with interest, others with mild amusement. "They survived countless wars with only basic weapons," Ryler said. "Yet they endured, learned, and adapted. Unlike many species, humans never stopped fighting. Even when one war ended, another began." Images shifted to medieval times. Knights rode horses into battle, banners waving, swords flashing. Castles burned and fell, kingdoms rose and fell again. Humans adapted new strategies, new machines of war, and new forms of defense. Other species may win wars by overwhelming numbers, superior technology, or sheer brutality, Ryler continued. Humans, they study war itself. They analyze victories and defeats with precision. They do not rely solely on strength. They rely on understanding. A few delegates whispered. "Interesting," one said. "If they are so young, How have they already mastered so much? Ryler's eyes swept the chamber. Because they never truly stop. While others seek peace after conquest, humans continue to refine, to prepare, to perfect. Every battle teaches them something. Every challenge strengthens them. They do not wait for threats, they anticipate them. The display shifted again. Now it showed modern humans. Soldiers in camouflage, moving through trenches using firearms, explosives, and armored vehicles. Cities erupted in conflict, yet the humans adapted rapidly, changing tactics mid-battle, always learning. And then came their most terrifying weapon, Ryler said, his voice low. The holograms displayed flashes of massive explosions, firestorms, and the eerie glow of mushroom clouds. Nuclear weapons, the Council recognized immediately. Humans had mastered the power to destroy entire cities, even whole regions, yet they had survived their own creations without annihilating themselves. General Karath leaned forward, his long tail swishing behind him. Impressive, he admitted. But technology can be countered. Numbers can overwhelm. A single species cannot face an empire alone. Ryler's gaze was steady. It is not their weapons that make them dangerous. It is their minds. Humans think differently about war. They do not act blindly or impulsively. They study, they calculate, and they anticipate. They understand the cost of conflict and use it to their advantage. Even when they could destroy themselves many times over, they choose restraint. That is their strength. A murmur spread across the chamber. Commander Jean of the hegemony, a tall, insectoid delegate, tilted his head. You say they understand war better than us? But they are young. Surely, experience comes with time. Experience, Ryler said, is written in their blood and memory. Humans have fought for thousands of years without a single period of complete peace. Unlike other species that find calm after conquest, humans never stopped refining their approach. They have schools dedicated entirely to the science of combat, books and simulations older than many of our empires. They turn war into mathematics and strategy. Every possible scenario is calculated before a single step is taken. The council fell silent. Even Karath had no words. He had faced countless species and conquered dozens of worlds. Yet something about these humans unsettled him. They were small, primitive in technology, yet their intellect and adaptability gave them power far beyond what their size suggested. Ryler paused, letting the silence fill the chamber. When our ships first contacted Earth, humans welcomed us with curiosity and openness. They were eager to learn, to explore. They appeared harmless. Yet, beneath that friendly exterior lies a species that could dismantle any empire that threatens them. They understand the true cost of war, and they are willing to pay it to protect their world. Another hologram appeared, human leaders shaking hands, signing agreements, negotiating peace treaties. They are not mindless killers, Ryler said softly. They are intelligent, calculating warriors. They choose when to fight and when to hold back. And if they are attacked, no empire will survive the consequences. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. The idea that a small, distant species could be so dangerous was difficult to comprehend. Others nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps the Lyran ambassador was correct. Perhaps humans were not the harmless beings they seemed to be. General Karatha's claws rested on the table. He stared at the images, deep in thought. If what you say is true, Ambassador, if humans are as you describe, then the galaxy may have underestimated them. Ryler nodded. It is not a question of underestimation. It is a question of survival. Any empire that attacks Earth will face consequences beyond imagination. Humans may appear young, small, and primitive, but they are dangerous in ways we cannot fully predict. The council remained silent long after Ryler stepped down. Delegates whispered to one another, their voices low and tense. For the first time, the galaxy began to realize that a young species on the edge of the stars could teach the greatest empires a lesson they would never forget. And somewhere on Earth, humans went about their lives, unaware that the eyes of the galaxy were now watching them. Not just with curiosity, but with caution and fear. The council chamber was quieter than usual. Delegates from dozens of species stared at the holographic display above Ambassador Ryler's podium, captivated by the scenes of human history. Ancient warriors clashed in bronze armor, medieval knights charged across fields, and modern soldiers moved through trenches, carrying rifles and explosives. Each image told a story of humans surviving, adapting, and growing stronger through conflict. Ryler stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. You have seen their history, but now you must understand how humans fight and why they are truly dangerous. General Korath leaned forward in his chair, his long tail curling behind him. Weapons? He asked. Primitive species like these rely on sticks, stones, and simple guns. They cannot possibly match the might of an empire like the Draconis. Ryler shook his head. It is not their primitive weapons that are frightening. It is how they use every resource, every tool, every idea as a weapon. Humans do not merely fight. They innovate, adapt, and create strategies that turn the smallest advantage into overwhelming power. The display shifted. Human engineers appeared, designing machines of war. Tanks rolled across training grounds. Airplanes took off, launching projectiles with precision. Even ships in orbit, small and fragile by galactic standards, moved with coordinated precision. They study warfare as a science, Ryler explained. From ancient times to the modern age, humans have turned every challenge into knowledge. They invent new weapons, refine strategies, and train generations to understand the art of combat. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every victory becomes a formula for the next battle. Commander Jean, the insectoid delegate, tilted his head. And yet, they are still small in number, still young technologically. How can a species like this threaten an empire? Ryler's eyes scanned the chamber. Because it is not the size of their numbers, nor the sophistication of their technology, that makes them dangerous. It is their mind, their ability to calculate, adapt, and predict. They can anticipate threats and respond faster than any empire expects. The hologram changed again. Scenes of humans in modern conflicts filled the air. Soldiers navigating urban warfare, drones surveying the skies, coordinated strikes that minimized losses while maximizing impact. The delegates watched silently as humans demonstrated their ability to act with precision, efficiency, and creativity. They learn from every battle, Ryler continued, even hypothetical battles. Humans simulate wars that never occurred, study outcomes that never happened, and use these lessons to refine their tactics. They turn war into mathematics. They predict outcomes with accuracy that rivals our best intelligence programs. General Karatha's yellow eyes narrowed. Impressive, but weapons can be countered. A fleet can destroy a planet's armies before they have a chance to fight back. Ryler's voice grew firmer. You misunderstand. Humans' power is not in their weapons. It is in their strategy. They do not merely fight with brute force. They fight with intelligence. They know when to strike, when to defend, and when to retreat. And when they strike with precision and purpose that leaves no chance for survival. The display shifted once more. Nuclear explosions flashed across human cities. Fires consumed entire regions. Yet humans rebuilt. They learned from every disaster, strengthened their defenses, and developed new strategies. Even when wielding weapons capable of destroying themselves, humans have survived, Ryler said. They understand the true cost of destruction, and they use that understanding to protect themselves while defeating their enemies. A murmur passed through the council chamber. Some delegates exchanged worried glances. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Commander Jean whispered, "If what he says is true, a small species could challenge the greatest empires in the galaxy." Ryler activated the final images, humans in training. Young soldiers practiced combat in simulations. Strategists analyzed historical battles, discussing the lessons learned. Academies taught the science of warfare, and books chronicled centuries of strategy and tactics. These are not mindless warriors, Ryler said. They are intelligent, calculating, and relentless. They have no fear of learning. Every generation becomes smarter, faster, and stronger. Every mistake becomes a tool for improvement. And they know when to stop, even when they have the power to destroy themselves many times over. General Karath remained silent, his tail flicking slowly. For the first time, he felt a shiver of uncertainty. He had faced countless species, crushed empires, and commanded entire fleets. Yet the humans, small, young, and seemingly primitive, were unlike anything he had ever encountered. Ryler leaned forward. When we asked their leaders what would happen if an empire attacked Earth, they did not hesitate. They said they would not simply defend their planet. They would pursue every attacker across the stars. Every ship, every base, every colony belonging to their enemies would be dismantled. No empire would survive their retaliation. The chamber fell silent. The weight of the warning hung over every delegate like a physical presence. Even the most confident and ruthless warriors, like Karath, felt the chill of realization. They do not fight for conquest, Ryler concluded. They fight to survive, to protect their home, and to ensure that no one can threaten them again. Their intelligence, their creativity, and their discipline make them the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. And yet, they do not attack without reason. They choose restraint until forced into action. That is what makes them truly terrifying. A low hum of whispers filled the chamber. Delegates exchanged worried looks, some skeptical, others alarmed. What Ryler described was beyond anything they had expected. A species so small, so seemingly simple, could hold the power to destroy entire empires if provoked. General Karath clenched his claws. Perhaps we should reconsider underestimating them. Ryler nodded. It is not underestimation, General. It is preparation. Any empire that chooses aggression against humans will face consequences beyond imagination. And I fear that few in this galaxy are truly ready to face the power of their minds. The council session ended, but the echoes of Ryler's words remained. Delegates left quietly, deep in thought, questioning everything they had assumed about the galaxy. Outside the chamber, stars twinkled indifferently, but somewhere far away, humans continued their lives, unaware that their minds, their history, and their determination were being studied by powers that had never faced such a threat. The galaxy had been warned. The council chamber was unusually silent. After Ambassador Ryler's detailed explanation of human history and strategy, every delegate seemed lost in thought. Even the normally unshakable General Karath of the Draconis Empire remained tense, his massive claws resting on the arm of his chair as he tried to process the sheer scale of what Ryler had revealed. Ryler straightened at the podium. His blue skin gleamed under the chamber lights, but his eyes carried the weight of the warning he was about to deliver. "Fellow delegates," he said, his voice steady and commanding, "you now understand why humans are not like other species. You see their history, their weapons, their intelligence. But there is one final truth you must understand. This is the dire warning, the truth that no empire should ignore." The room fell completely silent. Even the murmur of whispers had stopped. Eyes of every shape and size were fixed on Ryler. He activated the final holographic display. The stars behind Earth shimmered, and small human spacecraft floated peacefully above the planet's surface. When asked what they would do if attacked, Ryler said, humans did not hesitate. They spoke without fear, without anger, without arrogance. They were calm. And then, they delivered their warning. The delegates leaned forward. Even Karatha's massive frame seemed smaller as he focused on the ambassador. They said, Ryler continued, that any aggressor would not merely be repelled. They would hunt their attackers across the galaxy. Every ship, every base, every colony belonging to the enemy would be destroyed. Their civilizations would be dismantled piece by piece until nothing remained but ashes and regret. The chamber gasped. Murmurs of disbelief ran through the crowd. Delegates glanced at one another, some frightened, others unsure of what to say. Karatha's tail lashed slowly against the floor, a sign of his deep agitation. "Do you understand what this means?" Ryler asked. "They do not attack for conquest or greed. They attack to protect themselves. Every step of the way, humans plan, calculate, and execute with precision. If provoked, they will eliminate any threat entirely. Nothing, no empire, no fleet, no weapon, can stop them when they are fully engaged. Commander Jean of the hegemony, who had remained quiet for much of the previous sessions, finally spoke. Surely you exaggerate, Ambassador. How can a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel, threaten the mightiest empires? Ryler shook his head. It is no exaggeration. I have witnessed it myself during our cultural exchange. Their scientists, their military leaders, their diplomats, all operate with a level of coordination and calculation unlike anything I have ever seen. They understand war not as a series of battles, but as a complex system of cause and effect. And they do not fear consequences. They respect them, and they act accordingly. The holographic images shifted again. This time, they showed human leaders in discussion, soldiers training in formations, and scientists coordinating logistics. Even their communication networks, simple as they might appear compared to galactic standards, were efficient and precise. Every human action is measured, Ryler explained. Every decision has purpose. And when combined, these actions form a system capable of responding to threats far beyond their size or apparent strength. Karatha's claws flexed. His mind raced. He had led countless campaigns, conquered dozens of systems, and defeated numerous empires. Yet, for the first time, he felt a creeping doubt. Could this small, distant species actually destroy entire civilizations if provoked? Ryler's voice softened, but its intensity only grew. I have seen their restraint. I have seen their patience. I have seen them study, learn, and prepare. They do not act without cause. But if attacked, they will act without mercy. Empires that ignore this warning do so at their own peril. The galaxy may underestimate them, but humans do not underestimate anyone. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, while others quietly nodded in understanding. Even the usually aggressive Karath remained still, processing the implications. 3 days from now, Ryler concluded, the Draconis Empire will meet in War Council to decide their next move. I do not know what choices they will make, but I fear that many do not yet understand the magnitude of the danger humans represent. To underestimate them is to invite disaster. The session ended shortly after. Delegates left the chamber quietly, whispering in corners, their conversations filled with speculation, fear, and wonder. Outside the grand halls of the council, the stars twinkled with indifferent beauty. Galaxies spun silently, unaware that a small blue and green world harbored a species that could one day shake the foundations of empires. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans continued their daily lives. Cities buzzed with activity, children played in parks, workers went about their routines, and scientists studied the mysteries of space. They had no knowledge that beings across the galaxy were speaking their name with caution, awe, and fear. Ryler returned to his quarters, exhausted but resolute. He had delivered the warning, laid out the facts, and revealed the truth about humanity's potential. But he knew that not everyone in the galaxy would heed it. Pride, arrogance, and greed often blinded the powerful to the realities around them. And far away, in the war chambers of the Draconis Empire, preparations were already underway. Emperor Theric, the massive and ancient ruler, studied star maps and intelligence reports with his generals. He dismissed some of Ryler's warnings, calling them fearmongering. Yet, a subtle tension filled the room, a quiet acknowledgement that perhaps this young species, this humanity, was more than what they appeared to be. The dire warning had been issued. The galaxy had been given a glimpse of the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. And in the silence that followed, a shadow of uncertainty fell across the stars. A shadow that would grow larger with every decision made by those who dared to ignore it. Somewhere deep in the void of space, the first faint signals of attention turned toward Earth. Ships, scouts, and agents began preparations for observation, reconnaissance, and perhaps confrontation. And the humans, unaware, untested, and brilliant in ways few could imagine, continued their lives, their minds unknowingly plotting the defense of their world and the potential wrath that awaited anyone foolish enough to challenge them. The galaxy was changing. The warning had arrived. And soon, the consequences of underestimating humanity would begin to unfold. Deep within the volcanic heart of the Draconis homeworld, the Empire's war chamber was carved from black stone, glowing with the red light of embedded crystals. The air hummed with tension as the Empire's most powerful military leaders assembled around a circular table, its surface covered with holographic star maps and battle simulations. At the center sat Emperor Theric, an ancient and colossal draconess whose dark red scales bore the scars of countless wars. His yellow eyes glowed like molten gold as he studied the information before him. "Report," Theric commanded, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to shake the walls. Admiral Zyra stepped forward, her armored frame rigid. "My lord, we have reviewed Ambassador Ryler's warning about the humans on Earth. Their civilization is young, their technology primitive compared to ours, and their fleet limited. At first glance, they appear harmless." Theric's jaw clicked. So why did the Altari send such a warning? They are known for caution, yes, but fear? That is unusual, even for them. General Vale, the Empire's chief strategist, tapped the table with his clawed fingers. "Emperor, the Altari are usually accurate in their intelligence. If they are warning us, there may be reason. However, our spies and long-range scans show that humans have barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their colonies are minimal. Their weapons are basic compared to our plasma cannons and energy shields." Commander Drex, leader of the Empire's ground forces, snorted. "Ground forces? Their soldiers wear simple armor and carry chemical weapons. Swords, spears, firearms, nothing that could challenge even our weakest units. They are primitive, my lord." Theric leaned back in his throne-like chair, a slow rumble of amusement vibrating through the chamber. "Primitive, yes, and yet, the Altari fear them enough to summon the council. There must be something more." Admiral Zyra activated a holographic display, showing images of Earth cities, colonies on the moon, and small orbital platforms. Population approximately 8 billion on their home world, with minimal presence beyond. Their fleets are small, their ships designed mainly for transport, not war. We see no advanced shield technology, no energy weapons comparable to our arsenal. Theric's eyes narrowed. So far, this confirms what we suspected. Weak, young, and isolated. Why all the fear? General Vale's claws tapped impatiently. Because Emperor, humans are not just physical warriors. They are thinkers, strategists, planners. The Altari report that humans study war at a level unmatched in the galaxy. They calculate, simulate, and anticipate. Every action is measured. Even their restraint is part of their strength. They can destroy, but they choose when to strike. Theric paused, letting the words sink in. He had conquered empires through brute force and cunning. Yet, the idea of a small, distant species capable of intelligent and calculated warfare intrigued him. "Explain." Admiral Zyra gestured to the holographic map, where small human spacecraft and orbital defenses glimmered against the stars. Their fleets are small, yes, but humans are efficient. They study history and apply lessons quickly. They train generations in strategy and warfare. Even simulations of battles that never occurred are used to perfect their tactics. The Altari suggest that their greatest weapon may not be technology, but the mind. Drex snorted again. "The mind cannot fire a cannon, Admiral. Numbers and firepower always win." Vale shook his head. "You underestimate them, Drex. Every battle humans fight, every encounter with another human civilization, has been a lesson in adaptation. They learn quickly, they innovate, and they never surrender, not truly." Theric's gaze swept the room. "So we have a species that appears weak, yet could be stronger than we imagine. What does the Altari ambassador suggest?" Zyra hesitated. "Caution, my lord. Observe them. Study them further before taking any action. Do not assume weakness because of appearances. They may be dangerous beyond what we can predict." Theric's massive claws drummed against the table. "Dangerous, He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "We have crushed empires, defeated countless fleets, and ruled the stars with iron and fire. Yet the Altari fear them, and perhaps rightly so. But fear alone does not guide the Draconis Empire. We act with strategy, not panic. Drex smirked. Then we strike. If they are weak, we take their world and show them the might of the Draconis Empire. If they are dangerous, we crush them before they grow stronger. Simple. Vale shook his head. It is not simple, Drex. Striking without understanding their full capabilities could be disastrous. The Altari warn of complete annihilation in response to aggression. Do you think a primitive species could truly destroy an empire? Perhaps. Perhaps not. But caution is warranted. Theric's claws tapped rhythmically. So we debate, as always. The humans are young. Their world is distant. Their fleets are small. Yet their minds, and the Altari fear. Yes, caution is wise. But I am Emperor. I will not be ruled by fear alone. We will investigate, but we will prepare for every possibility. Observation, reconnaissance, and if the time comes, we strike. Carefully, decisively, and without hesitation. The generals nodded, though tension lingered in the air. Even the most confident officers understood that humans were unlike any opponent they had ever faced. There was a sense, unspoken but undeniable, that underestimating this species could lead to consequences no empire had faced before. As the council session continued, holographic maps displayed potential invasion routes, fleet positions, and planetary defenses. The discussion grew heated at times, but the underlying tension remained. Each general understood that the humans were young, yet something about Ryler's warning lingered in their minds. Outside the war chamber, the twin suns of the Draconis homeworld cast long shadows over jagged volcanic peaks. The galaxy spun silently, indifferent to the fears and ambitions of its most powerful empires. And far away, humans on Earth remained unaware that their actions, their history, and their minds were now being studied by a race that had conquered countless stars, yet might soon discover that intelligence and strategy could rival raw power. Emperor Theric finally leaned back, his eyes glowing in thought. Prepare reconnaissance missions. Study every corner of this young species world. Observe, analyze, and report. We strike only when we know the full extent of the threat, or when the time is right. A silent acknowledgement passed through the council. Every officer understood the weight of the order. The Draconis Empire had faced many enemies, but none like this. Humans were distant, small, and seemingly insignificant. And yet, they had planted fear in the heart of the galaxy's most powerful empire. The stage was set. Observation had begun. Decisions would be made. And the humans, blissfully unaware, continued their lives on a world that, unknown to them, was now at the center of galactic attention. The Draconis Empire's War Council had begun, and with it, the first steps toward a confrontation that could shake the galaxy to its core. Far from the Draconis homeworld, deep in the black expanse of space, small reconnaissance vessels slipped quietly past the outer rim of human-inhabited systems. Their dark hulls reflected distant starlight, and within each ship, Draconis officers monitored every signal, every transmission, and every movement with careful attention. Admiral Zyra stood on the bridge of the flagship Crimson Talon, her sharp eyes scanning the display panels. Sensors show minimal activity in orbit, she reported. No advanced defense systems detected. Their fleet is tiny, mostly transport and research vessels. Planetary defenses appear limited to small orbital platforms. Ground forces are poorly armored and lightly equipped. General Vale's claws tapped the table, a sign of unease. So far, our initial assessment confirms what we expected. Primitive technology, small population, minimal defenses. On the surface, they are weak, isolated, and vulnerable. Commander Drex, seated behind them, snorted. Finally, some sense. This is exactly what I said: primitive, unprepared, an easy target. We could conquer them without losing a single ship. Zyra shook her head, her expression grim. Do not underestimate them, Commander. Ambassador Ryler's warning was not just about weapons. Humans fight differently. They analyze, adapt, and anticipate. Even now, we may be missing something critical. The holographic map flickered, showing Earth, its moon, and a scattering of small colonies. Each location seemed peaceful, almost ordinary, yet the data from orbital scans suggested remarkable coordination in transportation, communication, and resource management. Humans may have been young, but their efficiency was clear. Vale leaned forward. I agree with Admiral Zyra. Their fleets are small, their weapons basic, yet the Altari warned that they are extremely dangerous. Perhaps we are not seeing the full picture. Could intelligence, strategy, and adaptability really give a species the power to destroy an empire? Drex waved a claw dismissively. Strategy alone cannot destroy us. Numbers, firepower, and technology always win. This is a species in its infancy. We have faced stronger foes and crushed them effortlessly. Zyra exchanged a glance with Vale, both aware of the danger of overconfidence. We must remember, Zyra said softly. The humans studied war for thousands of years. Every conflict, every battle, every error is recorded, analyzed, and learned from. Even failure becomes a weapon in their hands. They can anticipate, calculate, and adapt faster than we can comprehend. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Outside, Earth rotated slowly in the black void, a vibrant blue and green orb, seemingly peaceful. Yet, the data suggested something more. A species ready to respond with precision, intelligence, and deadly efficiency if provoked. Vale's claws tapped nervously. So we are to believe that this primitive species, with no interstellar armada, could dismantle an empire? It seems impossible. Zyra's gaze hardened. Impossible is exactly what makes them dangerous. Humans do not fight like other species. They do not rely solely on strength or numbers. They rely on knowledge, preparation, and adaptability. If we make even one mistake, underestimate their capabilities, the consequences could be catastrophic. Drex snorted again, though the confidence in his voice was quieter now. I still believe their technology is outdated. Their weapons are simple, their ships slow, and their defenses weak. They could not possibly defend themselves against a proper attack. Zyra's tone was calm, but firm. Perhaps, Commander, but humans do not fight like we expect. Ambassador Ryler described them as patient, intelligent, and strategic. They do not act blindly. They do not strike recklessly. And yet, if provoked, they respond with precision and relentless determination. Every empire that attacks them risks total annihilation. The lights in the bridge dimmed slightly as the fleet approached Earth's outer system. Every officer understood the unspoken truth. Appearances could be deceiving. The humans were young, their technology primitive, and their defenses limited, but their minds were formidable. Intelligence, strategy, and adaptation were weapons more dangerous than any plasma cannon or fleet of warships. Vale finally spoke, his voice low. We must proceed carefully. Observation is necessary, but we cannot ignore the possibility that humans may be far stronger than they seem. Overconfidence could be fatal. Drex scowled, clearly frustrated. Caution slows progress. If they are weak, we should strike and take control before they can develop. Waiting gives them time to grow stronger. Zyra shook her head. Waiting may also give them time to learn. Humans improve constantly. Every failure is a lesson. Every encounter a new opportunity to adapt. The longer we delay, the stronger they become. This is why Ryler's warning cannot be ignored. The fleet moved silently into position, scanning, observing, recording. Satellites were deployed, and data streams fed into the Empire's intelligence networks. Every aspect of human civilization, cities, colonies, communications, even education and military training, was scrutinized. Yet, despite all the scans, the true measure of humanity remained elusive. Outside the observation decks, Earth rotated serenely. Humans went about their daily lives, oblivious to the eyes of a galaxy-wide empire analyzing their every move. Cities buzzed with activity. Children laughed in parks, vehicles moved along highways, and scientists conducted research. In every action, humans demonstrated efficiency, coordination, and a quiet brilliance that no Draconis ship could yet measure. The officers on the Crimson Talon exchanged uneasy glances. The humans were small, young, and seemingly unprepared for conflict. But their minds, their history, and their adaptability made them unpredictable and dangerous. Overconfidence could destroy them. Underestimation could destroy the empire. Admiral Zyra stood, gazing out at the blue-green world. We may have the numbers, the ships, and the weapons, but humans fight differently. They think differently, and that may be their greatest strength. The fleet continued its silent observation, and the seeds of doubt began to grow among the Draconis commanders. Humans, small and seemingly primitive, were far from the easy conquest they had imagined. The galaxy had underestimated them once. Soon it would learn the true cost of that mistake. Far across the stars, in the observation deck of the Draconis flagship Crimson Talon, the Empire's commanders watched as human civilization went about its daily life. Cities sprawled across continents, lights twinkled in the darkness, and ships, small and simple, moved methodically through orbit. General Vale shook his claws in frustration. They are still so young, so primitive. Surely, there is nothing here that can threaten an empire of our scale. Admiral Zyra's gaze did not waver from the holographic display. Primitive in appearance, yes, but the Altari warned us for a reason. Humans are not measured by technology alone. Their strength lies in their mind, their adaptability, their ingenuity, and their determination. Commander Drex scoffed, though the confidence in his voice was quieter than before. We can destroy their cities, their fleets, their defenses. They are outmatched. What makes you so certain that they are dangerous? Zyra's voice was calm, steady, and unwavering. Because, Commander, humans have survived everything the galaxy has thrown at them. From internal wars that lasted thousands of years to natural disasters that wiped out civilizations, they endure, they adapt, they learn, and they improve faster than anyone expects. That is why they are dangerous. The holographic display shifted to a timeline of human history. Ancient civilizations rose and fell, leaving behind knowledge, culture, and strategies. Empires crumbled under war and famine, yet humanity endured. Their technology, weapons, and understanding of strategy evolved at a rapid pace. Each failure became a lesson, each challenge a catalyst for improvement. General Vale's eyes narrowed. So you claim that their greatest weapon is their experience? Zyra shook her head. Not just experience, intelligence, coordination, innovation. Humans fight with foresight. They anticipate outcomes, calculate risks, and use everything at their disposal to their advantage. They are patient and methodical. They do not act recklessly, but when provoked, they respond with precision that can devastate even the strongest foes. Commander Drex's tail flicked nervously. You make it sound as if they could defeat us even before a battle begins. That is impossible. They are still limited in numbers and technology. Zyra's voice dropped, filled with quiet certainty. Commander, the Altari warned us because they saw what we cannot yet see. The potential of humanity. Even small and seemingly insignificant, their minds allow them to act in ways far beyond our calculations. They will fight strategically, adapt relentlessly, and never surrender. That is their true strength. The flagship sensors continued to scan Earth and its orbiting colonies. Satellites and spacecraft revealed the humans' small space operations, but nothing in the data suggested the scale of their potential. Yet Zyra knew, as did Ryler before her, that appearances were deceiving. Humans' power was not in their ships or weapons. It was in their minds, their ability to innovate, and their unyielding resolve. Vale finally spoke, his claws tapping against the table. So, we are to believe that a species with chemical rockets, small fleets, and limited shields could potentially threaten an empire? That is difficult to comprehend. Zyra's gaze remained fixed on Earth. It is difficult, yes, but that is why the Altari warned us. They understood that intelligence and adaptability, when combined with determination and resilience, are more powerful than any weapon. Any empire that ignores this warning does so at its own peril. Drex grunted, frustration mixing with unease. Even so, I do not see how a species so young could defeat us. Zyra's voice grew firmer. You may not see it yet, Commander, because humans do not fight as we expect. They do not rely on numbers, brute force, or technology alone. They think differently. They plan differently. They adapt faster than anyone anticipates. They endure when others fall. They calculate when others rush. And above all, they never give up. A silence filled the bridge, broken only by the hum of engines and the distant glimmer of stars. Even the Draconis commanders, the fiercest warriors in the galaxy, felt a strange tension in their claws and tails. Humans, small, seemingly primitive humans, had instilled fear not with force, but with the certainty of their minds and the promise of relentless adaptability. Zyra leaned forward. Observe closely. Watch how they live, how they learn, how they organize and communicate. Every moment of their existence shapes their potential. What appears as simplicity is actually efficiency. What appears as weakness is actually resilience. And one day, if provoked, this species could turn the galaxy on its head. The holographic display shifted again, showing human engineers designing spacecraft, scientists collaborating on energy systems, military units training in precision exercises, and citizens coordinating disaster response on Earth. Every scene highlighted ingenuity, resourcefulness, and intelligence beyond what the Draconis had expected from a primitive species. Vale's voice was quiet, almost reverent. Perhaps we have underestimated them. Drex said nothing, but his eyes did not leave the display. Even he understood that overconfidence against humans could be fatal. Zyra's tone softened. Underestimation is their greatest advantage. Humans are patient. They allow others to misjudge them. They allow others to assume weakness. And when the moment comes, when their world is threatened, they respond with precision, intelligence, and relentless determination. That is the warning we must heed. The galaxy should never assume that small, young, or primitive means weak. Outside, Earth continued its quiet rotation. Cities glimmered under the sun, oceans sparkled with life, and humanity went about its daily routines, unaware that an empire was studying them, measuring them, and underestimating them. The Crimson Talon's bridge was silent. Even the most confident Draconis officers understood that intelligence, adaptability, and determination could rival fleets, weapons, and empires. Humans were small, young, and primitive, but their minds were their true power. Zyra finally spoke, her voice calm but resolute. The galaxy has been warned. Those who ignore humanity do so at their own risk. The true strength of this species lies not in what they wield, but in what they think, how they adapt, and how they endure. And one day, that strength may decide the fate of the stars. The Draconis commanders exchanged uneasy glances, each realizing that a species so seemingly ordinary could become the galaxy's most formidable opponent. The observation had revealed the potential, but it had also revealed a warning. Underestimate humanity at your own peril. Somewhere on Earth, humans remained unaware. They continued their lives, their minds quietly planning, learning, and growing. The galaxy had underestimated them for the last time, and the stars waited, silently, for what was to come.